Well, welcome everybody. We're back to having new products dropping all the time. It seems to be after the Sephora sales, a bunch of new products released. I can't imagine what that's about. So today we're going to take a look at some of them and do some life updates. But let me just quickly go over what we're going to look at today. The big one is that one of my favorite foundations, Prada, has finally come out with the Prada Concealer. So we're going to take, the bottle's so good. We're going to take a look today at the Prada Concealer. And then we're also going to take a look at some new items from Dior. So I have the new Forever Glow Maximizer in Sugar Icing, as well as the new Dior Pressed Highlighter. This one's in Sugar Cane. It's a really cool color. It's kind of a duochrome blue pinky kind of shade. And then I'm just going to kind of fill in with some Prada products where I don't have new products to show you. But then I also have a few other new products today that I'm going to try. One of them is a drugstore product, but I've just heard everybody raving about it. It's the Hard Candy Smooth On Lock Primer. I thought, why not? I don't have the Prada primer, so we can try that. I do have the Prada setting powder. I have the new Dior bronzing stick, which goes with their pre-existing contour stick. So we're going to see kind of what the difference is in these. And I have two new shades of the Celine lipstick to try, one of which I think will work really well today with this kind of winter springy look. So if that sounds good to you, then please like, subscribe, follow along, share my links with people who might really enjoy it. And yeah, let's get to it. So before we begin, I just want to say that the outpouring of comments and support on my Chanel Rouge Noir video it's beyond my wildest thoughts. You know, it was very difficult for me to film that video. It was the first video that I filmed in the new year, and I really hesitated on whether I should put it up or not. But the comments have been so beautiful. If you didn't see that video, I would suggest you do, because that collection's very lovely from Chanel. But also to give you kind of an update on what's been going on in my life. Right before Christmas, my father passed away of a heart attack. And then 3 days later, my sister and her husband took their lives. So in the span of 4 days at the holidays, I lost 3 family members. I've been trying to go back to work some. I don't know how useful I've been, but I'm doing the best I can. And I really didn't want to shoot videos. I have no desire to shoot them, but it's those comments that have kept me really on it. So I really do appreciate it. This is going to be a process for me to get that energy that I have in my videos kind of back. And I can work through this process with you if you'll be kind enough to listen to me talk while I show off these new products. I'd greatly appreciate it. Okay, so let's start with the brows today. And I have the Precisely My Brow from Benefit. It's my favorite brow pencil. But, you know, the Victoria Beckham one's good. The one from Make Beauty is really good. It's just this one just always, it doesn't disappoint. And this isn't the super thin one. This is the kind of normal sized one. The super thin one, I find I just go through it too fast. But this one I really like. And it's more affordable than like the Victoria Beckham for sure. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a quick eye look because this isn't an eyeshadow video. And then I'll come back and we'll start looking at the products because what we have today is a lot of base products. So I'll be right back. I'm going to throw on a quick eye look that I think will go with what we're doing today. Okay, bye. Okay, if you've been watching my channel for a while, that might be the lightest eye look I've ever done. But I really just wanted to do something that was kind of wintry, springy, that'll match with some of these colors. This is the Tom Ford Soleil Quad that came out at the holidays. It's the Chalet Mink Quad. I didn't really want to get this. I really liked Black Diamond last holiday season. It's my only Tom Ford quad. And then this one was on like a crazy sale the day after Christmas. So I did pick this up. So now I have two Tom Ford quads. This one's fine. There's nothing really spectacular about it. But what it does do is it kind of creates a peachy pink kind of look that'll go well with this. Now you might be saying, well, Wayne, why did you not get the Dior quads that came out? They had a purple pink one, and they had kind of a creams and seafoam green one. Well, if anything, I would have got the seafoam green one. I think that's going to be, popular for them. But a little secret, I have never met a Dior quad that I liked. For whatever reason, they don't work for me. There's not a lot of pigmentation. They're kind of dry and ashy, and I've just never been able to get one to work. And I was intrigued by this one because of that pretty green color. And then I saw my queen, Alicia Archer, use it, and she's nicer than I am. But you could tell she was struggling to get pigment payoff out of it. So I passed on that. So I think that this will have a similar effect. I could always add a little green on the inner corner or something like that from like a Chanel single. But I think this will work just fine. So let me pull you out and we're going to start on these new base products. So I love the Prada foundation. It came out, was it 2 or 3 years ago now? Just a really beautiful, perfecting foundation. Not particularly glowy, but very perfecting. So I have been waiting for them to launch new products, and besides the hand cream that nobody wanted, they finally have launched the Prada Concealer. Now, I have mine in the shade LN3. Which I think will work well because the two shades I use of the Prada foundation, I mix. I mix 2 pumps of the LN25 with 1 pump of the MC45. Obviously, I should get the LN30 if I refill them, but this is fine for now. So what I'm going to do, I don't have the Prada primer, but I did want to try this Hard Candy primer, because a lot of people that I follow have talked about how good this primer is at perfecting and blurring. And it's a weird consistency. It's very thick and it's clear. It has that kind of glycerin smell. Not as bad as like the YSL primer, which I love the YSL primer, but it does have that weird like plasticky smell. This doesn't have it. It is very smoothing, and this primer is like less than $12. I mean, it is so smoothing. I don't know that it's particularly hydrating. I think they do have some hydrating versions, but the one that I have heard the most about is this Smooth Unlock, and I've had a lot of skin problems. You can imagine, with stress. I had a sty during the holidays with everything that was going on. That's the main focus for me right now. It's not being super glowy. Plus we have glowy products we're going to try on today. So let's go ahead and take a look at this concealer. Now, I think this retails, it's at Sephora, Nordstrom, on the Prada website. And like I said, I have LN3. I have heard that this is a good medium to full coverage, and that it's kind of medium of the road, so not super thin like Gucci or Tower 28, which I love, and not super thick like Pat McGrath, which I also like, but that one has a place. This one's kind of middle of the road. And I kind of wondered, it has the little triangle, how it would feel consistency-wise compared to the new Chanel, which I really do like that highlight or that concealer, the new Chanel Le Tint that was reformulated and came out in Europe in the fall and then recently came out here. So I'm going to let that just sit for just a second. But I can tell it's not particularly thick, but it does look like it's got a good amount of coverage. And I think this color will work well for me as kind of a brightening color. So I'm just going to kind of blend that in. It doesn't feel like it's self-setting. But I also feel like if you used a lot of powder, it could probably look a little dry because this is not luminous. It's kind of more of a perfecting, much like the foundation. So what I'm going to do is just grab a little bit of the Prada setting powder, which I really do like. This is the Prada Reset that came out a year and a half ago. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of that and just run it right along here. Just to make sure that they're set nicely. But, I mean, look how perfecting those look. Between this and the new Chanel right out of the gate this January, I mean, these are beautiful concealers. This one has quite a bit of coverage. That Chanel one is full coverage too. This one's maybe a slight hair less, but I don't mind that. It's really beautiful. Okay, so foundation. Like I said, I mix those two colors together. I do 2 pumps of the lighter one and 1 pump of the darker, cooler one, and that seems to work for me. I could use the lighter one, but it's a little too warm for me. So let me grab a trusty Refer brush. And I'm just gonna, I love the smell of Prada Beauty. I don't know what it is. I normally am not a huge fan of scents in beauty products, but Prada Beauty has that iris scent that's just really beautiful. Yeah, this goes really well with that concealer. They look seamless together. And I have found with this product that less is more. You don't need a ton of the Prada. In fact, I know, like I was mentioning Alicia, she she often mixes it with like an Armani skin tint or like the Givenchy, things that are a little thinner. That's certainly a way you can make it stretch. You could also use, I'm going to do a little bit more coverage on my forehead. You could also use like that one size base thinner, which is actually a really nice product, which I forgot to mention at my end of the year video. I really enjoy that product to make a more matte foundation luminous and to thin out foundation. That would work well for this if you were looking for lighter coverage than what it provides, which is medium to full. It's pretty damn good. It's one of my top 5 foundations for sure. My skin is so dry, but that's okay. We've created a little bit of a base here. So let me just go ahead and grab that Tom Ford quad and just run a little bit of that medium color under the eye here to complete the look. Very nice. So I do have some Prada liners, and I thought that the Prada liner in mahogany would look pretty with this. So I'm going to go ahead and run that in my waterline. The Prada liners are very good, and they don't tend to move a bunch. So they are a really nice liner. They've got 5 or 6 colors. They don't have a ton of colors, but I really like the ones they do have. This one's pretty. I probably would have done something a little lighter, like a rose or something, if they would have had that color. But maybe for the spring, they'll release something. I know they have lip glosses coming, so Prada's moving along. For a brand that started kind of small, they're really moving along. Concealer looks really nice. Okay. So we've got that. Well, let's go ahead and grab the Dior Forever stick. And this is the contour stick. They look very similar, but of course the bronzing stick is brown. I have the light medium color in both, so I'm going to show you the difference, because you might be thinking, is the bronzer stick just an extension? But I think you'll see that they kind of have different purposes. So the bottom one is the contour stick, and you can see that it's much cooler and taupier, and the bronzer is on top and it's warmer. So I think that you definitely could get both and, you know, not feel like you got two of the same thing. I saw a lot of people online saying that, well, this just seems like a money grab or something. No, they do seem very different. And you know, the thing about Dior is I'm not a big fan of their eyeshadows, their lipsticks, they're okay. But when it comes to base products, they're really good. So let's go ahead and put some of the contour stick on, just to give me a little bit of definition. I have a shade darker than this too that I can use in the summer, but I have to use it very sparingly. That is the one thing I've noticed that complaints people have about the Dior products, these sticks, is that the colors seem to jump really crazy between the different shades. Okay, so let's just blend that in. So like I said, I've been trying to go back to work a little bit. They would understand it, and quite frankly, I probably shouldn't. I should definitely take time to deal with the 3 deaths last week. But I haven't really wanted to be alone. And so my boss and coworkers and my employees have been so understanding. You just don't expect to go through something like this. But I'm not going to cry today. I already did that in the other video. But I do find myself crying more than I did. I think it was shock in the beginning, and now it's really thinking about what has happened. And, you know, my dad was 83. It's sad, of course. But when it's 83, you kind of expect that that's a possibility. My sister was 59, and her husband was 3 or 4 years older than that. They had a lot of health ailments and mental ailments, and they had kind of shut down from the world for the last few years, not really let anybody into their world. She had Crohn's disease and had got very, very heavy. And so this is my Refer curler. Okay, I'm gonna have to grab another curler because I just noticed the little gripper on here is not on here. So, well, let me grab another curler and I'll be right back. Okay, so this one's not as fancy, but this one's just from Wet n Wild. It will do the trick for today. Like I said, this isn't an eye look. You know, I never have good luck getting the little pads on here either. I'll have to look up on YouTube how to do that more effectively, to replace the little pads on these. Anyway, she had gotten, or got quite large and was dealing with Crohn's disease, and he had meningitis years ago, and there was just a lot of depression. And so you kind of thought that this could be a possibility one day, but you never thought, you know, that it would happen. And we were so close. She was my hero. We kind of grew apart in the last few years. And she said that in her note. She apologized for that. I just wish there was a way that I could have that conversation with her. And that we could have had that conversation when she was alive. And they've asked to not have any memorials or funerals or anything. And it sort of feels like with that, like I respect that, but it also sort of feels like a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it. Did it happen? And it's been hard for me to figure out a way to send off without a send off. Just really sad. And anyway, to the new bronzer stick. So it has a similar consistency. It really is just a shade difference, and then the packaging is different. I'm not going to put this directly on. I think I don't want to do that. I think it could be too strong. Is it? There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place some on the back of my hand and then pick it up with my brush just so we can see what this looks like. Very emollient, just like the Dior foundation stick and the Dior contour stick. And I'm just going to go higher than where I put the contour, because this is warming up the foundation where the other was more shaping the face. But you can see that added a nice, just that small amount added a nice bit of color. I saw on Not Fit for Print, whom I love if you don't follow her, but she does her sort of Reader's Choice Awards at the end of the year. And she said still the most popular foundations that people loved were Lisa Eldridge and the Dior one, the Dior Stick Foundation. They've had some others that are really nice too. But I thought that was surprising because the stick has been out for a while, but people really like it. I will say, I think that that's twofold. I think it's a good product. I also think that people loved the Tom Ford one, and that's been discontinued for a while. And this Dior is the closest that has come to it. I hope that they bring that back. Okay, so that looks really nice, and it gave just a little bit of warmth. I'm going to grab whatever's left on my hand and just warm up this forehead area a little bit. Okay, so that looks nice. Let me grab the Prada mascara. I like this mascara. It's not overly dramatic, but it has a really interesting end to it. And it does provide with lengthening and separation. It's not va 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 boom like the YSL, Lash Clash, or Pat McGrath, but it is beautiful. Okay. So like I said, easy peasy look. Today we're looking at cheek products, so keeping everything else fairly easy. Now, the other day I did a short, so hopefully you've seen that. If you haven't, you can go over to my Instagram or the shorts on YouTube of the new Gucci Glow blushes. I love the Gucci Luminous Matte blushes. They're my favorites, really, that and the Valentino. These are an extension. They're new colors, but they're a new formula. They're more glowy, and they're also a little bit more buildable. Although I will say the two darkest colors, you have to be very careful if you're someone like my skin tone, because if you saw that video, you saw how quickly they just went, and I had full pigment. The lighter ones, like the one I'm going to use today, they're much more like user friendly for my pigmentation. So the one I grabbed today is the Fresh Coral, and the reason I grabbed that is because one of the sticks that Dior released is kind of in an orangey coral color, but I'm not a huge fan of those sticks. So I figure what we can do is use the shade Fresh Coral from the new Gucci blush, and these are cream to powder, but they're also quite glowy, so it should have a similar effect, and these are beautiful. Now I would suggest normally using a denser brush because these are cream to powder. They have a little bit of sponge. They're not as bad as like, or not bad, I really like them, but they're not like the Gucci highlighters. They're firmer than those. But they do have some where they require like a more stiff brush. However, if you want to do very soft airbrushed like this, then you could use your traditional brush. Just know that it's going to take twice as long to build it up than say if I used like a Refer BO2 or whatever. Those you could pick up more product at once. But this looks really pretty. Look at the difference. I mean, it's just a really pretty glowy blush. So let me pick up some on the other side. In fact, let me show you. I'm going to grab what I would typically use for these cream to powder blushes, and it's an LCO2. So it's a little denser. It picks up more product, but it's quicker. And that's really the preferred type of brush with both the Gucci highlighters, the Prada highlighter, and now these Gucci glow blushes. The other Gucci blushes, they work really well with a softer brush. But see how this is building up quicker? This one took more and more layers, and that's because it has this spongy kind of texture to it. So if you use something denser, you can get more pigmentation, but I think that looks really nice. Okay, so we have new products from Dior, highlighter type products. The two that came out that I picked up are, this has got to be about what, the 13th or 14th shade of these Forever Glow Maximizers. This one is in sugar icing. They had one at the holidays called Abracadabra Dior, I think. And it looked very similar, but it had more of a pink flip. This has more of a blue flip. So let me show you on my hand. Really, really pretty. It goes with this like sugar collection that they have. And this one, as you see, it does have pink, but it has a little bit of blue, but nothing crazy in it. And I don't see any huge particles in this one. Some of the colors have much larger particles. This one is much smoother. Not sure why that is. And then this is the new Dior Forever Glow Luminizer. So they're powder highlighter. And this is in sugarcane. And this, I think, is the star of the collection. It's just really unique. It's got this purple to blue. It reminds me a little bit of, do you remember in the Camellia collection from Chanel last year, there was an eyeshadow that was like this? Pat McGrath has much more intense versions of this in like Mothership 1. But it's this beautiful blue to pink, and this is such a smooth highlighter. It's really glassy. The one that they had at Christmas, which I loved, the Dior Star highlighter, it was really pretty, but it had more like visible particles. This one does not. So over here you can see the liquid one, and then over here it's just got this glassy, if it hits the light you can see it. So it's actually, for something that is kind of an interesting color or duochrome, it's actually kind of unique for Dior to have it be so smooth and kind of more wet looking instead of chunky glitters. So how do we want to do this? What I typically do is I will put the luminizers up a little bit higher, especially the ones that have larger particles in them, because they can accentuate your texture if you're not careful. And so I'm going to take that same LCO2, let me wipe off any additional blush that was on there, and just blend this in And it just gives you that kind of cool, bluey, astral kind of shade. Really interesting. I like that. And it doesn't have large particles. Some of them have huge particles. Like I think the pearl one, like number 1 or whatever. This one does it have a number? No. But the original like white one, it has some really large particles in there. And if I wanted to go really intense with this, I can build it up. In fact, let's see what we can do here. We can get away with that. I have a simple eye look, so we can get away with something a little crazier on the cheeks. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty. I saw Alicia on her video paired this. Of course, she had that ridiculous Dior palette that has no pigment. But the way she made that palette work, and what looked really beautiful with this, was pairing it with the Coco Pave liner from Victoria Beckham, because it has some little blue and silver particles in it, and it really picked up the blue kind of silvery shades that are in these highlighters. Be calling me. Okay. It's probably a well-wisher. Oh, I can't complain. Okay, let me grab a little, just a smaller brush for the powder highlighter. And this is a traditional highlighter, so you don't have to use a denser brush. But this is so beautiful that I'm probably going to way over apply it. But I want you to see what it looks like. And even as a blush topper, it's really pretty. There's no real particles in it. It's really interesting, but it has this slight iridescence in it. I think that this is really much like the holiday collection. I thought the Dior Star was the highlight of that collection too. And I think this looks really cool. And one thing too, if you wanted to spice up your eye look a little or make it more cohesive, just put a little of this on the middle, and then that way, that kind of blue flip, it just, I mean, look how that just looks like they all kind of came together. It's very cohesive. And you can also put something like this in the inner corner a little bit, because that Tom Ford palette does not have an inner corner color, and I tend to like a metallic in my inner corner. So I think that looks really nice. I don't know what you think. Oh, let me show you something that's on my desk. My best friend got me this for Christmas, and I think it's really cute. I don't know what company it comes from, but they make specialty lighters. I'm not a smoker, but I do like candles. And fun, right? Okay. So what else do we have today to try? Well, I can't try everything I have. I'm gonna have to do some additional videos. I've got the new KJH brand purple blush and highlighter, which I'm excited to try. And I have quite a few shades of the new Valentino Color Crush blush, which is spectacular. So that's gonna have to be in another video. But one thing I do have is 2 new shades of the Celine Lipsticks. So let me grab those and I'll be right back. I love these Celine lipsticks. I think they're so chic and really beautiful. And I think the component is really gorgeous. And they have just 15 beautiful colors. Most of the ones I have, because I discovered it during the fall, so most of them are autumnal, including this new one here. This is what is it called? For LE16. That's the name of this one. I think it's an address. But this one's a really beautiful red, but like a blue-based red, which is really beautiful. Wouldn't necessarily go with this look, but it is really beautiful. And I have swatched all of these on my channel before, so if you'd like to see how they look, check them out. And of course, I'll do more as I get more shades. I can maybe do another comparison video. But the one I did get that I think would look really pretty with this look is called Rose Celeste. So it's kind of a peachy, pinky coral color. And they don't have a ton of like spring colors in the collection, but this is one that they do have, and really beautiful kind of corally color. I'm wondering if I should put a liner on. Let's just see what it looks like without. Oh, my lips are so dry. But unlike the Chanel one, which looked like a hot mess on me because I hadn't exfoliated them, this is a satin, and these are really beautiful, grippy, lightweight satins if you haven't tried them. Yeah, much more forgiving. That's a pretty color. It's not like something I would normally wear, you know, without a liner. So I'm going to grab a liner and I'll be right back. So I grabbed the Westman Atelier pencil in Petal because I think that it is a pretty pink color that will look well with this, but it'll give me a little bit more definition. Like the Biscuit or some of those shades that I really like from Westman Atelier, I think would be too dark. So let's try Petal with it. Yeah, that's really nice. Westman Atelier, that Petal collection in general, it's just a perfect kind of cool toned, beautiful, user-friendly kind of soft rose color. Yeah, that made all the difference in the world because it created some dimension, because otherwise that lipstick is a beautiful color, but it's a little light. At least for me. And then I can take this and just kind of smudge it along the bottom here to make it to where it's not so perfect. And if I feel like I've lost some of that lightness that goes with this look, then I can easily just go back in. These lipsticks have such a nice feel to them. They're just really beautiful. If you've never tried them, I know they're a little challenging to get. You have to get them from the Celine website. Retailers don't really have them. Like the Saks on Fifth Avenue that has a Celine in it, that Celine does have them, but you kind of have to go to the Celine store or go to the website, but it's really beautiful. So we tried a lot of products today, and you dealt with me having a minor emotional breakdown. Not quite as bad. I guess that's the goal. I like the concealer. It looks really good. I think that the highlighting products are beautiful from Dior. And of course I love this new lip color, and I think that bronzer worked really well too. Very different than the contour. So again, for those of you who thought that maybe they were too similar or it was just a shade extension with a money grab, I don't think so. So I think it looks really nice. What I would normally do is kind of set this, because I used matting primer and more of a natural finish foundation. I would set this with something a little bit more glass-like the Peach and Lily, or if I really wanted, like the Pat McGrath. But now, if this had been glossy, then I would do the opposite often to kind of counterbalance it and use like the Danessa Myricks. But I think this looks really beautiful. I'm going to go take a shower and probably go to bed, because that's all I tend to do now, as I said in my last video, is sleep and wake up in the middle of the night and think about what has happened and then freak out and then go back to sleep. Anyway, I appreciate you helping me through this process, because you're helping me through this process. I don't know a ton of people in a new city, and this has happened, and it's scary and it's freaky, and no one expects this 3 deaths, 4 days. But I like sharing these new products. And if you like this kind of content and you can put up with me occasionally having a mini meltdown, well then please like, subscribe, follow along, shop my links. It's very helpful because as you know, this gets very expensive. And share me with friends that you think might, like this kind of content. Or maybe even people that are going through similar circumstances. So yeah, I really appreciate you being here today, and I will see you soon with more new products. Look at that highlighter. That is really beautiful. Of course, highlighters are the hardest thing to come through on camera, but hopefully you can get a good read on that one. Thanks everyone. Bye.